Hello again, whiskey friends. Hey, thanks for joining me, everybody, for another bourbon review. And I am particularly excited to talk about this one. I think this one is very, very unique and something to be excited about. Though I also think it's going to be very, very divisive, and a lot of people are going to be turned off by it as well. But I dig it, and we're going to get into why I dig it. And we're going to talk about the Copper and Kings Bourbon here. So this is a blend of Kentucky bourbons that was finished in apple brandy barrels. And to highlight the first thing that makes this unique, it's 111 proof. I'll get into why that's unique as we break down these stats. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right, so I'm going to pour this. For today's review, I've got a Bourbon Junkies Glen here. So cheers to Dan and Sean. Let's get a little bit more. All right. So, Copper and Kings, for those that may or may not be familiar with that name, for the most part, they've always been the makers of really good brandies. I've got I should have pulled this out beforehand. Ugh. Of course, I think about it now as I'm going in through this live. But I've got a Copper and Kings right here. So, this one is a bottle that um, I've been in love with in the past. This has actually won some blinds. I've given this one to Kelsey and Darrell blind, but this is what they make. They make good brandies, and this one was finished in sherry and then toasted cask on top of that. So it had this Phoenix batch, barrel thing going on. Really, really good stuff. This is a really strong pour. And the other thing that sticks out with me with Copper and Kings that you may be familiar with, but they were one of the first of the collaboration batches with Bardstown. And they had a really good apple brandy finished MGP. That stood out to me. But how much was that? That was $120 at the time. If that were to come out today, it'd be $150 for that apple brandy finished MGP. What I am impressed about and where I think this thing is kind of a unicorn in a lot of ways is that it is a finished Kentucky product. So this has got some Kentucky bourbons in it that they blended and then finished in the apple brandy casks. And the ages on these bourbons can get old. So if we think about something that is finished today, typically in an apple brandy cask, what's going to come to mind to me is going to be Nulu, but it is going to be a 5 year, 6 year MGP. A lot of these times, these finished bourbons that we see on the market today are finished, but they're also youthful, and the finishing's kind of covering up the youth. That's not what's happening here. This one is a blend of some decent aged bourbons, even some older casks. And it's also 111 proof. And if I think about, I'm just going to go through my mind right now and do this challenge with me. Think about some Kentucky bourbons that are finished, barrel proof, and then cost $60 to $65. Not too many of those exist. When I think about what happens with Kentucky bourbons, especially older casks when they're finished, they become that distillery's special release. Something like the Jim Beam Master Distiller's cut that was sherry finished, or just recently the Wild Turkey Voyage that was finished in rum. You can go through and through, but when Heaven Hill, when Wild Turkey, when Jim Beam, when Buffalo Trace, when they finish their stuff, especially at barrel proof, it is a special release and it is uber expensive. This one being, I think I got it for $63.99. That sticks out to me as a bit of a unicorn because it's a finished Kentucky bourbon. It's not finished MGP, nor is it young. It's not 5 to 6 years old. So that's interesting. That's what sticks out to me when I see this one. So let's get into the flavor notes and then let's get into the final scores. Thank you for joining me this far, everybody. So on the nose, this is where I think this one could get divisive. A lot of people are probably going to walk away thinking this thing's over finished because the apple brandy really sticks out, but it's also being released by a brandy company. So why wouldn't they highlight their own stuff, you know? So I know these flavor notes might sound a little generic, but man, just makes me think of apple pie, particularly a cinnamon syrup, that pie filling part of it. It really comes across as the middle of the pie versus the breadiness of the crust. There is, though, some banana that's living on. Maybe that hints at the source of some of the barrels that they used, but there is a banana note that comes across on the nose. And the nose itself is ultimately very comforting as well. I could spend quite a bit with this nose. Let's get into the taste. Hmm. I mean, look how viscous this thing is. We go into this glass. You can just see the oils running through here. Once again, being barrel proof and finished like this, and you feel all of that in terms of the mouthfeel. Very, very creamy. Uh, Once again, the flavors though are still going to run to that apple pie range. You know, that apple cinnamon is just going to shine through. Beyond that, man, lots of caramel. Apple, cinnamon, caramel. Over and over again, amped up volumes too. Ooh, that is really a flavor punch with those particular things. Ooh. And then on top of that, you know, if it were an apple pie with a little caramel drizzle, there is a dollop of vanilla whipped cream on that too. Oh. Going into the finish, it gets a bit spicier. So I do like that. The cinnamon kind of amps up there, particularly baking spices, the crust of the pie. Ultimately, though, as it really sits on the finish, I'd equate it to a apple cinnamon toaster strudel with that drizzle on top of it. You know, that frozen drizzle that you let melt as the strudels in the toaster, and then you put that on top, and then you make your little design. That's what I'm thinking of when I drink this, especially with the finish. It's a apple cinnamon toaster strudel. I always love when things take you back to childhood and has that nostalgic on it as well. The other thing, though, I mean, this is once again, oh man, the apple. The apple's over the top. So you could walk away saying this is overfinished. I completely understand that opinion of it. I think it's delicious. And once again, where I respect it the most, there is no youth on this thing. It is some older cast, some good bourbon underlying this thing. Even if you were to say the apple brandy is over the top, I like apple brandy. Uh, it doesn't hit me like some of the finished Nulu. I know I keep saying Nulu, but there's other brands that do it too. When they have a 4 year, a 5 year bourbon, and then they finish it, and you still get that graininess. You know, there's just no overcoming it sometimes, particularly with the MGP. Um, but this one, being a Kentucky bourbon, older casks, finished, and it's $63. I am just I'm marveling at this release, honestly. Like on paper, it's just something in today's market that just wouldn't think would exist. So let's get into the scores. So here on the channel, we do break things down into a three-tier scoring system. Got a flavor score, experience score, and a value score. Ultimately, those things do sum up into the total score. And there's like a whole bunch of metrics behind all these. Now, when it comes to the flavor, gosh, I kind of wish I would have given it a few more points. I'm debating a little bit. I think the thing that gets me is like it is like kind of singular. It's that apple cinnamon, it's that apple pie, it's that apple cinnamon toaster strudel with a little bit of vanilla, either in the form of the whipped cream or the icing or however you want to equate it. I mean, it's that one thing. It's that one signature thing, singular thing that just shines through the entire experience. I think it's really, really delicious, but ultimately couldn't elevate it up into the 80s. Experience is the same way. Love the mouthfeel, but didn't give it a whole lot of points on depth. But when it comes to the value, all's the points. All's the points, takes them alls away. $63. Man, I really think this is something that everyone should explore. The only thing I know I gave it a recommend 8 out of 10. The only thing that I'm kind of negating a little bit is the fact that I do think some people are going to walk away. I think this thing's overfinished, that the apple brandy's over the top, that it's too much for the bourbon, it's overpowering the bourbon. I can see all those storylines play through. I still think it's really good. I think you should try it. I am pretty impressed with what Copper and Kings did on this release that I had no idea that they were coming out with or that I should look forward to. I think that's pretty exciting. It's when things like that come around that make me appreciate bourbon and just the excitement of being on this journey and trying new things that I didn't even know I was going to buy until I bought it. So thank you for Copper and Kings for doing this. Hopefully you got some more experiments around the corner. You got my attention. I'll keep trying them now. Or hey, maybe I'll just keep sharing this one and maybe I'll buy some more. So that is my breakdown of the Copper and Kings. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So let me know if you had this pour. What are your thoughts? And am I overly excited for it? I mean, it's a pour that makes me smile. I've been smiling a lot here, right? Oh, it's really, really good. Fits the season too. A nice fall bourbon. I really do like this thing. I probably like it better than my score indicated. I should have given it a few more points. Oh well. Thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. I'll catch you on the next whiskey review. Goodbye, everybody.